Hey everyone, how's it going? Glad to be back with y'all. It has been way too long since I streamed with y'all. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. It's been a minute. So, I've got something ready to go on the desk here. Let me make some quick color adjustments to that camera. Looks to be a little overexposed, so we will take care of that right quick. Get that down to where it needs to be. Anyways, yeah, glad to be back. It's been way too long. Got the new overhead camera setup going. Hopefully it works out well. Ready to get back to this streaming bit. Turn that exposure down just a touch more again. There we go. I think that's where we're going for color. Alright, so as you can see, I've got a nice BARC speeder here that we're gonna go slap some paint on. We'll stream here until about probably midnight Eastern. See how long I make it. And this is really a good test for my new overhead camera setup, see how things are going. Let me know if the mic sounds good. I want to make sure I'm not being too quiet. But yeah, remember, as always, there's a slight delay in what I hear and see in the chat versus what I'm actually talking about. So if you say something in the chat and I don't get right back to you real quick, it's because there's that delay. So if the music's too loud, let me know. I can turn it down some. But yeah, let's get started. So I got a fancy new toy for Christmas from my wonderful wife. It does nice fancy things. Whoa. Hey everyone. Not sure if that cut out for a minute, but if it did, I do apologize. I'm back. So, we will see. But yeah, as I was saying, got a nice fancy new toy from my wife for Christmas. I'm real happy with it. It does cool things with paint. Take one of my paints on here. This one I'm going to use crusted sword for the markings on this BARC speeder. Put it on there, and it makes it vibrate and mix. So, I've not used this color in a while. It's definitely much better than having to shape these things by hand. So, I'm going to keep that off camera. So if you hear that buzzing in the background, that's me not doing anything shady or anything. Alright, so palette cam. For what I've done to get to this point where I'm at on this BARC speeder is I have sprayed it with a I took my airbrush, I primed it, and then I sprayed it with a some Spaceship Exterior. Yeah, Spaceship Exterior. It's been a couple months since I did this initial spray, so bear with me, I'm trying to remember. But I sprayed it with an airbrush with Spaceship Exterior all over the place, and then we're going to get some markings going here with crusted sword is going to be our marking color. So I'm going to use a really large brush for some of these markings because we're going to be covering a pretty decently large area from a lot of it. I may not stick with this brush very long though, because it's definitely much larger than I like to use. I'm afraid I'm going to mess up, and I don't want to have to respray everything. So, we'll go something a little bit smaller, take just a a little bit longer to get that paint on there where we want it. Let me know what you think of the new setup if you've seen any of my older videos. Let me know if the angle's better, if it's close enough. So since this is a red based color, it's probably going to take a couple coats to get us to the color that I want to be at. So I think this Army Painter Regiment brush is just about worn out. I've got another one over there, and I've got a couple on order to replace these. Yeah, I like this color on this BARC speeder. So we're going to try to go for a box art on this one, or as close as possible to box art. Welcome to everyone that's just joining. Feel free to toss a message in chat. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to differ from box art in this manner, in that we're going to color this down here instead of the box art has right up here done, and I'm going to do this down here. Good, glad to hear that, Seraph. Alright, so we've got that marked out the way we want it. Let's come in here. Get the same thing. So while I've been gone, I've been learning a lot. I've been doing a lot more miniatures where I don't use a wash at all. That's been a test for me. If you follow my Facebook page, you may have seen my Dooku miniature that I did. That had no wash on it at all. It was all painted shades and highlights. And that's been a new personal endeavor I've been wanting to take. Not that there's anything wrong with washing a miniature, but I've wanted to practice some different techniques, and it forced me to learn some new color theory without washing and doing some other things. So now that I've got everything back up, I should be able to stream some more and get some more motivation to paint. I've missed y'all. Well, this is awkward. It's an awkward angle to paint this BARC speeder at. I have played some Legion recently, though. I was lucky enough to get to go to the Knoxville Prime Championship, Prime in the area, since that's my local area. We're not going to talk about my 0-3 record there. I did not do well. Definitely a symptom of not getting much playtime in at all. Prior to, I think the Prime Championship was like 3 weekends ago or 2 weekends ago, I can't recall. But anyways, prior to that, I had not played any Legion since September. So I definitely felt it as I was playing. If you could, if you know people that would be interested in watching my stream, it would be super helpful for you to share this around so that it gets a little bit more exposure. If you're watching this and you have not already, hit that like button and subscribe for notifications for when I go live. It'll give you a nice little pop-up saying, by the way, Jagged Brush Studios is live. It's going to be a little bell notification on the home page. Is to turn on the notifications, and then of course subscribing always helps, as it shows me that you guys enjoy what I'm working on, or what you've been seeing. Sarah, I saw your new light box. I'm going to have to break down and get me one of them. I don't have a light box. I shoot on my photos are all taken on a t-shirt that I've cut down into a backdrop, and just my overhead lamps that I paint with. Alright. So, now that that part's done, let's decide how I want to paint this part. Well, it's not done, it's drying though. Let's go ahead and get this side of it again. Like I said, remember when I'm doing it, so try not to apply paint over wet paint. It doesn't like to adhere. So what we'll do here is, this part's dry. I think it's going to take about 3 coats to get to the color I want it to be. We'll probably end up putting a wash on this miniature because this is for a customer, not for myself, and washing is a quick way to get to the level that I like to do for my customers, and it's a technique that's easier for people to do, and I like to try to paint on these streams for the general person to be able to imitate if they would like. So I think we're going to do this panel here. Match it on the other side. I'm painting off stream. I've been pretty happy with my setup as it works right now. If I just change the backdrop to like a felt instead of a t-shirt, so I'm still torn. What I really need to do is, rather than shooting with my cell phone, is just grab my expensive camera and set it up somewhere to be able to shoot. Because I have a real nice DSLR camera that I don't use for shooting those things. So, I don't know why. I've got a nice camera mount that I could put it on and do all kinds of fun things. So, what I'm doing now is just kind of picking out where I think that the panel should be red. I don't have any guidance from my customer on this one, so it's a what do I think would look good? Like I said, we're going for similar to box art, but it doesn't have to be exactly box art. Working with a nice thin crusted sword color. It's a nice burgundy from Army Painter. If you're watching this live, let me know what color you would paint your BARC speeders, or what color you have. If you're watching this on video, post in the comments. What color would you want yours painted? Alright. And I think the last spot I'm going to try to go for is probably this nose cone right here. Well, there's the last 2 spots. My internet hiccuped. Sorry about that. Not sure what's going on. You know, it wouldn't be one of my streams without some technical difficulties. Anyways, putting this color, as I was saying, let me know in the comments what color you would want your BARC speeder painted, and what panels you might think about painting that I am not. Or if you like the ones that I picked, let me know that too. Using these red colors is a good chance to remember to thin your paints out, because reds are easy to get frustrated with and want to get applied in one coat. But that's a dangerous place to get yourself trying to apply it in one coat. Alright, second coat on some of these panels. Still working with that crusted sword color. Thinning it out. And I've got this on an Army Painter wet palette that has been a wonderful tool addition to my toolbox. I've always had, well, I've not always had a wet palette, but I've been using a wet palette for a long time. But I like the Army Painter one for various reasons. If you haven't and you want my thoughts on the Army Painter one, go watch my Army Painter wet palette video. I do a really good breakdown of it and what I like about it versus other wet palettes. So I'm going to take this off its peg for a little bit, because we need to paint the panels down in behind the sidecar. What I'm going to try to do is get my brush wet, kind of over brush it. You won't see it very much, so if it's not perfect, that's fine. Especially if you have the sidecar on. Alright, that'll work for that. The other benefit of thin coats is they dry faster, so you can go back and cover them up again sooner. Second coat on this nose piece. onto these just to even out the color. Wow, well that was a dumb mistake. I stuck my finger right on the fresh paint, which is why I usually have it on the little handle, because I have a tendency to do stuff like that. So go back over it and smooth out my fingerprints. And let's not do that again. Okay. So while that dries, I'm going to try to get it back onto my little peg here. Alright. So, what I am going to do is I'm going to use a large brush to paint all of these. The sidecar is going to be all red. So, since I'm not trying to do fine panel work, I'm just going to paint the whole thing with the red. So feel free to say hi in the chat if you're watching. I know, Sarah, you're here, but I'd love to know my other people that are watching. I promise I don't bite in the chat. I've been putting off painting this BARC speeder for too long. Like I said, it's been sitting on my desk primed since the core set was released. I don't know why. I just don't... I painted enough stormtroopers that I didn't feel like painting clones. So I did one squad of clones for the video that I did on them. If you'd like to know how I do them, go back and watch that. I will not be... Today's stream's just going to be doing the bike. I'm not going to do the troopers on stream because I've already done them, and I'll use the same technique as I used in that video. So, like I said, if you'd like to know how I'll paint the riders on this, go check out that video. I just want to focus on the bike, and then get that video up and ready. When you're building these, you can build them without the sidecar, so if you don't like the sidecar, leave it off. That's fine. I did this one with. Points-wise, when you're building your list for this, my understanding is you can do it with or without the sidecar. I don't play clones, so I'm not 100% sure on that. I know it looks real streaky. That's okay. We will come back and clean it up. I can't help but think that something's missing on the nose. Probably this. Just get this painted red. Yeah. I'm just using this big brush, trying to be real careful with it, because I didn't feel like rinsing it right now. myself in a position where I can brace. Alright. There we are. Now to try to get the other side. I'm not sure if chat's working. If it is working, I'm not seeing what y'all are saying. If you're not saying anything, well then that would explain it. So, back to the sidecar. Like I said, if you are chatting and I'm not seeing it or responding, I do apologize. I don't know if chat's working. Sarith, what are you working on painting? If you're still here.
Lucky, you and me on the Charles River. I could die right now, Glenn. I'm just happy I never felt that before.
So I boo-booed and got a little bit of paint right there on the nose, so what that's going to become is battle damage later. Because I don't feel like painting over it. Yeah, it says there's a chat, right? I'm just not seeing it. Let me see. Pop out chat. There we go. Alright, let me catch up on some chat real quick. I had to pop it out. For some reason the chat window's not working. So there we go. Alright. Let me catch up. Nathan, thanks for joining. It looks so massive. Yeah, the BARC speeder's a big one. And yeah, I've never had this kind of chat issue. And there. I think I'm caught up. Nathan, thanks for stopping on by. Glad to have you here. I had a brief internet hiccup, and then when I came back, my chat just never came back. So it works if I have it popped out in its own window, but if I try to view it in the same window as my stream, it's not working. So we'll just have 15 windows open on my computer. It's okay. I love the Army Painter Metallics. I've always used them, so those aren't anything new. I've not opened that box yet. I'm going to do an unboxing for it. Maybe, I don't know. Well, never mind. I was going to say I'd do it tomorrow night. I will not be home tomorrow night. I won't be home all weekend until Sunday, and then Sunday's the Super Bowl. Hey, Dan. Thanks for joining. How's it going in your world? We're just chilling while I paint some Legion stuff. Got some good chill music going in the background, and I'm showing people how I do a BARC speeder. Actually, To be completely honest, everyone, it's my first one I've ever done. So I'm learning this as I go with you. It'll be a learn. Maybe I should retitle this one instead of Live Paint Guide to a Learn to Paint Guide. Or what do they call the gaming videos? Let's Paint. I know it's a surprise that I've never painted one of these. I really don't like painting clones and stormtroopers. Working on some tauntauns, huh? I can't even bring myself to paint those. That's how much I dislike that unit. If you can't tell, I'm a salty Imperial player when it comes to tauntauns. Alright. So, while those big red areas dry, there's an area I want to... I think they'll need one more coat on the big ones. Nathan, Legion's a really fun game if you ever can get into it. I really enjoy it. I don't get to play it very often, but I can't speak to contrast paints. I've never used them. I don't know if you can tell, but I use Army Painter products a little bit. I'm not sure if that gets through with all the Army Painter branding on there. For complete transparency, I am sponsored by Army Painter, so I do use their products whenever possible, which is almost everywhere I find a way to use it. So we're gonna get some color onto the seats. I'm gonna start with this dark stone color. For those that didn't catch my stream earlier, that noise you hear off to the side is my Vortex paint mixer. Army Painter paints do require a whole lot of mixing, especially if you don't let them, or if you let them sit for a while, and dark stone is not a color that I use very frequently. I'm a company man. Actually, I don't work for them. I just use their stuff, and they send me free stuff every once in a while, like those metallics. So, as I was saying, I'm going to use dark stone onto my palette there. I'm sure they have their use, but what I've also found is that you can use the Army Painter washes as contrast. So, I'm going to paint the seats here. Excuse me, the seats. We're going to hang out here tonight. I'll paint probably until about midnight Eastern, so got about an hour and a half left. Unless I finish the bike before then. So if I finish the bike before then, and like I said, I'm only doing the bike. Cool. I really enjoyed painting dewbacks. I've painted 5 of them now. 2 of them in traditional green colors, and then 3 of them I did for a really good friend of mine as a birthday gift. I painted them for him, free of charge, and they were Mustafar themed. If you want to see those, go look on my page. I don't have them handy here. The only thing I have handy here model-wise that's finished is my entire droid army is all magnetized and stuck to the side of my painting desk. Because I just finished them up the other day.
I guess we all have future pants. They're pants we're going to wear tomorrow. And the next day.
I have no idea what this music is. Something about pants. Thanks, Nathan. I enjoyed painting up the Mustafar ones. They were a nice break. There was one that if I had the chance to redo it again, not that I wasn't happy with how it turned out, but I definitely disliked it a little bit more than the other couple, or I didn't like it as much as the other two, and it was the one that's more black than the other two. If I had to do the one over, I would repaint him with a different pattern. Still happy with how he turned out, but the pattern could have probably been different. So like I said, using a dark stone color here as a base tone for these brown leather seats. And those don't have to be super detailed because you're going to have a clone sitting on top of them. Nice, Dan. A while back I did a set for that same gentleman of shore troopers, and I did them in a Mustafar theme, so they were black and orange and yellow and red. He has a Mustafar themed Imperial army. Getting a little bit of paint in a couple areas I don't want, but whatever. It'll be blocked by a clone trooper's back. Gotta remember that on the seats. There will be a clone trooper sitting on these. So that's one trick to how I paint, is that if it's an area that's obscured, I don't put as much work into it. Because nobody's going to see it. Spend your time on the areas that people are going to look at versus the areas where you spend a whole bunch of time and then you glue something to it. Wow, I really did chunk over on that one though. We'll even that up a little bit. Okay. And like I said, I am going to put a wash on these. So they'll take out some of the missteps here. Anyways, to go back to that, using Army Painter Tones as a contrast paint, yeah, I know that they behave differently, but I have used Army Painter washes as a similar effect to it. Let me start that thought over. My brain stopped. I've used Army Painter washes to gain a similar effect as the contrast paints. You just use their, take some of their quick shade medium and mixed it in, and it gets a different viscosity. Just trying to even up some lines. When I'm concentrating, I get quiet. back over to the main side and try to do this edge a little bit, and do this edge a little bit, without messing it up too bad. Like I said, remember, there'll be somebody's butt on the seat, so don't be too worried if you mess up a little bit. Did chat die again? I'm hoping chat didn't die again. You all got quiet real quick. It says chat rate 0, so I assume that means nobody's talking. These seats done. Like I said, we're just base coating now. We'll come back in, we'll do any touch-ups necessary, cleanups, things like that in just a minute. Monpox stuff, I've not seen that in a bit. Dan, I'm glad that the tutorials are helpful. I know they're longer, but I like to do the live streaming so that people can see in real time, and there's none of that. There's none of that, like, draw a circle, draw a triangle, finish the owl effect, where it's like the whoosh effect they call it, where they show you the first 2 steps, and then all of a sudden, here's my completed miniature that's now crystal brush standard. Hard to type chat with a brush. That's why I use a microphone. There's a goof up over here that's tripping me up that I need to bring around, even if it stretches a little bit further than it needs to. Alright. Larger brush. I'm going to go back and put one more coat on this sidecar on the reds, just so that they're uniform. Again, I'm using a crystal sword, or not crystal sword, crusted sword color if you want to try to imitate these colors that I'm doing. It comes out to a nice burgundy color when it dries. So, crusted sword by Army Painter. I can't give you any of the equivalent paint colors, but there's an app I like to use to find it, and if you give me just a minute once I finish this color, I'll tell you what it's called. I know Paint Wreck's one of them, I think it's called. I know that's one I've used to find matching paint colors. But that's not the one that I'm thinking of right now off the top of my head. I need to look on my phone. Alright, I will put this down, let some paint dry for a second, while I tell you what the name of that app was. Mini Paints. It's an app. And you can select all kinds of cool things on there. So, I like it. It works real well. Mini Paints. Put my phone back away. I love the color. I just don't always have a use for it, but on this BARC speeder, it's the perfect burgundy color, I think, to be similar to the box colors. So just darkening up a couple of them real quick before I completely wrap up with the red tones. It's moving as I try to paint it. Don't do that, BARC speeder. There. Alright. Next step is going to be the black for the weapons. And for that, I wish I could tell you what color this is, but it's a custom black mix that I make. It's a mix of some matte black, some necromancer cloak, and a little bit of blue. Just to give it, I really like a little bit of blue tones in my blacks, so fairly simple stuff there. You could just use like a necromancer cloak color. Please, 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 for the love of everything holy, if you are painting black, do not use matte black as your base color. It leaves you nowhere to shadow to, and it's not very natural looking. You can always shadow down to matte black for some very select areas, but please, please, please don't use that as your main shade tone, or your main base color. So, get my larger brush out just so it paint large areas faster. I'll have to get the smaller brush to get the interiors. Quit moving around, goofy thing. Yeah, Sarah, back to your comment about the painting white. That's exactly why I don't like painting clones or stormtroopers. Even though I don't have any desire to play clones myself, but I enjoy the Empire, so I've had to torture myself with painting them. And my biggest customer, well, both of my biggest customers are Empire players. I think they just enjoy torturing me too. So some areas it's easier for me to not have the handle on while I paint it. Part of it's because the handle's not adhering very well. I was using hot glue to secure it to the dowel, but it's not wanting to hold. And so I tried blue tack. It's not wanting to hold either. Not sure what the dealio is. So we'll just use my old fingers. Just using that black color that I talked about. Getting the weapons painted up. I know it's looking a little bit rough right now. We'll fix it, I promise. In the famous words of a once painter for GW, too thin coats. take your time and enjoy the process. I know a lot of people are like, well, I want to hurry up and get stuff painted. Take the time to learn. I learn something new every time I paint, I promise. Even if that's just trying a new technique. At least I learned something. And in learning is how I enjoy the hobby more. Welcome to the stream if you're just joining me. Glad to have you here. We're working on a BARC speeder from Star Wars Legion for a good customer friend of mine. We've got the red tones based on there, and we are working on getting our black tones on the guns. Preferably without getting it onto other random spots on the miniature. So I've switched out to a smaller brush so I can get to some of those finer areas. Nathan, have a good night. Glad to see you. I should be streaming much more frequently now. And should have some newer videos coming out soon that are not streams as well. Some how-to videos. Put that down for a second, let some things dry, and chit-chat with you for a minute. Since I took it off the handle, I gotta let some paint dry before I can touch it again, but here's where we're at. Some of the areas look rough, that's okay. We'll get to them, I assure you. I want to look up something on whatever image I was using as reference also. Okay. Bear with me a moment. Just had a reference photo I was looking at. Okay. Now that some of the black's drying, we can come back with that large brush again and do one more coat. You could use a metallic paint on here if you wanted to. I'm not. What I'll do is I'll come back and dry brush it metallic. Because then it makes the edges kind of bright. And a lot of military weaponry is just kind of worn around the edges. So that'll make it look metallic without it just being blah silver. So Dan, I do the same thing. Hence, where is that? Gotta find it. Hold, please. Hence why I have this sitting here partially painted. And that's been painted to that level This is from a board game called Kingdom Death Monster, and it's been painted to this level for probably 2.5 months, maybe 2 months. I did the base, got the base all done up and ready to go, and then just took a break from, honestly, I took a break from painting for a while. I got sick for a minute, and I just felt like I was never not sick for a little while. Anyways, so I took a break, and then now I am back. Alright. Oh, I have one more area I wanted to be black. And that's, to me, in my mind, these are exhaust vents, so. I want them to be black. I really thinned out the black so that it flows into the recesses and acts almost like a contrast paint. Almost. Not quite. So, we're going to let that sit for a minute. What I will do is I'm going to mix up a thinned out wash. Thanks, Dan. So, Army Painter Dark Tone. Old-fashioned tap water. Flowade. Quick Shade wash mixing medium. Give that a quick mix over there. Mix it all up. Test it on my thumbnail. Yep. I don't want the wash on this to be too heavy. And then I'm just gonna try to get this back mounted so that I can wash it all once it dries. So next step is to give this a good old wash up. Check on the old social media stream, see how things are going there. If you haven't, and you know anyone, like I said, that would enjoy this, please share it around. Natural shares help me to get exposure. I can share my stuff around, but Facebook knows that I own my page, so they get kind of weird about shares around when you own your own stuff. So the reason I'm going for such a diluted down wash is I don't want to kill this color that I've got too much. So I diluted it down so that it doesn't add too much of a dark tone to what I'm doing, but it'll go into the panel lines and it will darken it a little bit, which I had intended when I started this. So I started with a little bit lighter color than I actually wanted to begin with, which is why it was a Spaceship Exterior. And rather than like a darker to gray. What I will do is I will come back and wash the guns that are on here, the weapons, with a really dark wash, so don't worry about that for now. In certain areas I may hit with a darker black wash. Oops, I'm painting it off stream, aren't I? I do that regularly. If you're new to the streams, that's a normal occurrence here. Sorry. I still haven't figured out or learned to do better with that yet. It's hard to... It gets difficult sometimes to sit in one spot and paint, and I know it's so you guys can see, but that's what happens is I get a little bit uncomfortable, so I shift and don't realize that I'm not in stream anymore. And when you're doing your bark speeder, if you get some areas that are a little bit thicker with shade or wash than others, that's fine. It'll just make it look grungy. Get back on the stream here. I'm hitting the bottom of it real heavy with the wash because it's the bottom. I want it to shade it a little bit. Yes, Dan. When you think you don't have enough, that's probably when you have the perfect amount, and you just need to do multiple passes. You shouldn't get, like, sometimes I'll have to pass my brush over 30 to 40 times over the same spot to get enough paint on there. You're really just trying to have enough paint on there that you leave just a tiny little bit each time you pass over it. The second tip is to only dry brush in one direction. So if it's hard to show without actually showing, but you shouldn't like be going back and forth like this with your dry brush. You should kind of be doing one direction. I'll do some dry brushing on this, on the gun, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. But the problem, so dry brushing metallics are really easy because they show up real well. It doesn't take that many passes to get a good metallic dry brush. But I'll see if I can't dry brush something real quick for you on stream as soon as I get this wash done and show you what I'm talking about. I have something over here that could be dry brushed, so no big deal. Because I'll need to put this down to wait for it to dry anyways, so that'll give me something to do while I wait. Did I lose my music. Check on that in just a second. Whew, that was close. I almost went into black paint, and that would have been bad news. Just about done with this guy being washed. Get some in the side decaling here, even though most of these covered by legs, it'll help cover those areas that don't get covered by legs. Off string here, it looks like I'm really good at doing that. Okay, I think I got everything to a level I'm happy with. Ooh, what happened here? See if I can take that wash line off the pool lines. And I'm doing that by just taking my brush with a bunch of wash on it and running it over it repeatedly. It'll come off eventually. So, alrighty. Make sure I didn't have any other pooling marks. I went real heavy with the wash, so I might have some pooling on there. That's where we're at so far. Alright, I think I can do it on this face, so, and it'll be real evident because it's a white. Your dry brush. I'm going to dry brush a red on there. That's what I was going to get to right now, Sarah. This is a $2 eye makeup brush. It's real soft. It's really good for dry brushing. That's what I have swapped to and started using. And if I mess it up, I really don't care. So, here's what we're going to do. Get my paper towel. You can use paper towel, you can use cardboard, works really well for brushing these brushes off. You can get it at any big box store. Like I said, Elf brand, I think I paid $2 for it, snagged it while my wife was in the makeup aisle. Get some paint on your brush, and you're just gonna swirl it around and around until hardly any of it's coming off. So, you see how I started over here and I moved over here? And it takes practice. That's about where I'm happy with it at, where when I do that, I'm only getting like a pink color. And I'm not going, it looks like I'm going back and forth because I'm going real quick, but I'm only dragging in one direction. And when I come back to go up, I'm not pushing down, so I'm only applying paint on the downstroke. So and you see how long it takes to build up to that level that I wanted. And then what I'll typically do is I'll turn it 90 degrees and go in one more direction. But don't go the other way because you'll end up losing the dry brush effect. so I only go in two directions when I do it. So, it's a quick dry brush tutorial. You can get some really good basing effects that way. Get my brush cleaned out real quick. Hope that helps. I have the base for this guy done. I can dry brush him while we're waiting. He needs a dry brush, so you need a new piece of paper towel though. You want to make sure your paper towel's not wet, otherwise you'll never get the brush to the right consistency. Or the dry brush. Yeah, the brush. So for my basing, I'm using a terracotta color. No problem, Dan. That's what I'm here for. It's a lot of trial and error of just knowing when to stop. Taking it off the brush and when to start painting with it. There's something stuck on there I was trying to get off real quick. Kind of dark for what I'm wanting it to do. If you're just joining us, thanks for stopping on by. Glad to have you. I'm working on a BARC speeder, but I had to wait for a wash to dry, so I'm dry brushing the base that I was working on for it while we wait. Drop a message in the chat. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them. If you need a technique demonstrated, let me know. I'll try to find a way to demonstrate for you while I've got some free time. If I know how to do it. If you ask me to try to demonstrate something like non-metallic metal in the stream, I'm probably not going to be able to do that. Not to mention, I'm not good at it, so... So this army that... Yeah, I cut them in with a... So when I put my basing paste on, I use a X-Acto knife once it's partially dry to cut them out. It makes it subtle. And makes it blend but still be visible. Alright, this will be the last highlight color for this, I think. Okay. I don't know how well it shows there, but I can see on my end that it's looks a lot better than it did. All right. wash is still drying a little bit, but I can get some of the... I can come back with a dark wash and get the weapons real quick. And this is a pure black wash on the weapons, so it's not a diluted dark, it's just a straight up dark tone. There we go, and I may, you know what, I think I'm going to wash the seats with this too, because it wasn't quite as dark as I'd wanted. So, give the seats a quick wash. Because one would think they would look well worn and dirty with some clone trooper on them all the time. And then back here on this exhaust grate, let it have a good wash also of dark black. Or what I am calling an exhaust grate. I'm not sure what it is. Clone Wars was not my favorite era of Star Wars. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but I was definitely less up to speed on it than I was Galactic Civil War, so. I'm putting this inside the engines, or what I think are the engines also, just because I can. Alright, set that aside. Gotta wait for things to dry for a moment, so yeah, this is where we're at. A nice wash, get some of those panel lines to come out, and then we will start working on some of our reds. So get my little brush, we need to highlight back up some of our reds here. Hey, Legion Academy, I'm not sure which one of you of the Legion Academy it was, but my base tone, my primer was, I used a Badger Stinel Res, I think it's pronounced, gray, and then I took an Army Painter Spaceship Exterior, was my base tone color for the main bike. And then my reds were done with Army Painter Crusted Sore. Is that Sean or Joe over there at the Legion Academy on the stream? It's Joe. Hi, Joe. Nice to chat with you. So those are my base coat colors, Spaceship Exterior and Crusted Sore, and then the seats I used, Army Painter Darkstone. It's just an engine cowling? Okay. No problem. Alright, time to bring back my reds. Y'all are getting real fancy over there at Legion Academy. knocking my stream out of the water with some of your setups over there. Alright, just bringing back my panels. I will hang out for a Friday night fight. I can't tomorrow. But you know what? I assure you I will come soon for a Friday night fight. Tomorrow I'm out of town with my wife. With no children, we're going to enjoy the weekend. We have the kids staying at at family's house. But I will make it a priority to get over there, hopefully, maybe next week. So we're just using our base tone to bring back some of these panels. It's not doing a whole lot, so I may kind of forgo this step because I'm not noticing anything out of this production. I may need to go one step lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this vampire red, hit it onto my vortex mixer over here. That makes it sound like there's something inappropriate off to the side of my desk. Alright, vampire red, I'm going to put some on my palette. Just a little bit more of this crusted sore out. Then I'm going to mix about a 75-25 mix of the colors right here for highlighting. Make sure I get a good amount because I'll need it. So the reason I use the color that I'm working up towards, or that I'm working with, a brighter tone of it than white, is you don't want to desaturate your paint. White tends to cut out the colors. Makes it look like it's desaturated. So use a lighter version of what you're painting with. And don't take too many steps up and highlight at a time. Go gradual. I'm going to toss a quick teaser out here. I should have some pretty exciting news coming from my channel here shortly. I can't share anything about exactly what it'll be, but keep your eyes tuned. I think it'll be real exciting, especially for the Legion community. some new developments in my little world that is Jagged Brush Studios. So this is the part that is time consuming, is the highlighting. Base coating's quick. It's the making everything look pretty that takes time. What's that face about, Dan? I went to my wrong color. For those of you just joining us, me, thanks for stopping on by. Glad you're spending your Thursday night with me. I know there's a lot of things you could be doing, but I appreciate you hanging out with me. Puzzled about the announcement. I know I'm itching to share it too, but I cannot yet. I think if, like I said, if you're in the Legion community, if you're a part, it'll be really exciting for you. Intrigued. That was the point. Gotta build some intrigue, some mystique, keep y'all coming back. I'm hoping to be able to share something tomorrow. I'm not 100% positive that I can share it tomorrow, but we'll see. And it'll be an announcement via my page. So if you don't follow me on Facebook, find me on Facebook, Jagged Brush Studios. You can find me on all the other social medias as well. However, I am really bad at updating anything but Facebook, and if I do update it, it tends to be much later than Facebook, so follow me on Facebook if you want the most up-to-date news. I'm toying with the idea of a Patreon. I would love to get better cameras for my setup, and they're outside my price range, which technically for Jagged Brush Studios is $- because I've not made a dime. Well, okay, that's not true. I've made money off of my commissions, but those typically I make enough to buy the next set of Legion models that come out. Because I don't take all that many commissions. Especially not now that I'm focusing on, or I have shifted over the last few months into streaming. Even though it's been a minute since I streamed, I've been taking less and less commissions because I want to be able to paint what I want when I want to paint it on stream. So like, while I really enjoy Star Wars Legion, I do enjoy some other games out there, like Marvel Crisis Protocol has been a whole ton of fun to paint. I might have one video on painting Doc Ock for that. It's a fun game to play too. I'm also working on getting a Legion community built up. So when I say I live in Knoxville, I don't actually live in Knoxville. I live in the Knoxville area, but realistically, it's about a 45-minute drive for me to go play in Knoxville one way, 35 to 45. And so I'm working on getting. There's a local game store in my town that I live in that their guy that they hire that's in charge of running their gaming, I demoed a game of Legion for him and he's hooked. So he's buying into it and going to start running game nights. And Friday night's going to be his game night at the store for the Legion. So I'm hoping to get a Legion community built in my little hometown. Joe, they are not hard to detach. So yes, I hot glue my miniatures to whatever I'm happen to be using. This one is not. This one's just stuck on a wooden dowel that happens to fit up in the peg hole. But I prime and I hot glue them to whatever I'm going to use. You can see the remnants of it on this handle here. I hot glue, stick them on the hot glue, prime and paint over it. They are not difficult to detach at all. The droids were a little more difficult because they're a little more fragile, but I hot glued them. I'll show you in a second here. That's way thicker than I wanted it to be. Give me just a moment to finish painting this little nose cowling here. And I'll show you what I hot glued them to. Alright. You know those little white inserts that come in all the Star Wars Legion boxes, the cardboard inside the cardboard? Cut it into strips, hot glued them onto a stick, piece of balsa wood underneath for rigidity, and real thin layer of hot glue on all of these. It did peel some of the cardboard off in some areas, but I peeled that right off the foot. So I painted the entire thing, stuck to the stick, and just had a whole line of them, and worked my way down, and then peeled them all off. What it can do is it may leave, depending on how much hangs up over the side of the foot, it may leave a little bit of a spot where you miss the paint on the side of the foot, but it's so small and typically it's going to be pushed down against the facing that you can just go back with your base tone and touch it up real quick. Alright. Now we're going to go about a 50-50 blend of the paints here. I hope that answers your question, Joe. So this will probably be the last panel highlight I do color. What I'll do after this is I'll probably do some spot gloss highlights to make it look like there's light reflecting off of it. And I won't use an actual gloss color, I'll just make the effect of gloss. Because I don't want to get too far away from this burgundy color that I've been working with. So this highlight's smaller than the last one. And when you're highlighting, work with a little bit thinner paint than you're used to. So we'll probably get all these red panels done tonight. What you'll do is you'll do the same thing for the gray panels if you want. You kind of don't have to. You could dry brush them if you'd like. We'll see how far I get. I might be able to show one or two panels on the regular one. or on the white slash cream color. What you're going to want to do though on these panels with your highlights is focus your brightest colors up towards the top edge of each panel, where the light would naturally hit. I know it's kind of human nature to want to highlight the center of the panel, but don't. It won't look right. Think about where the light would hit if it were to hit this, and paint those areas brighter. Alright. And for our last highlight, I'm going to go into just almost a pure vampire red. With just a touch, not too much, but just a touch of the crusted silver in it. Because as light hits things, when you're focusing on your highlights, it tends to desaturate stuff. So, come back over here and really focus our highlights on the top ridges of this bike. I'll take a break to show you where things stand in just a minute. I'm going to do the top ridge of each panel, so to make it look like there's some panel lining work on there. Whoops, sorry about that. Had an itch in my head and then went to scratch it and bumped the camera on the way back down. I may come back with just a pure red on some areas. we'll see how it looks. That pure red thin highlight, or that vampire red by itself. This is going to be just on the very ridges of stuff. Just on certain areas. I'm waiting for this little nose centerpiece to dry, and then I'll put the last highlight on there, and we'll be done with the red. Alright, red's done. I'm going to take, where did I put it? Leather brown color, and I'm going to do some of the edges of the chairs. Chair's the word I'm looking for. Hopefully that's enough. I'm not out, I just don't feel like getting my other bottle out. And we're going to just do some straight leather brown and do some edge highlighting like it's worn. Like them sliding in and out of the seat has worn it down. And if you're not super clean with it, that's fine. These things don't wear evenly. So have fun with it. Use the edge of your brush and just grab the corners of it. Use the side of your brush. I think you can see that on cam. Yep. Like I said, you don't have to be perfect with it. If you miss a little bit, that's fine. It's going to wear unevenly based on where their body parts sit. And then I'm going to put some little crosshatch marks in the center, like it's got some cracks. Just some random wear marks. y'all can see that. Alright, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for the white panels, the engine cowlings. After I wash this one a little bit more, I don't like how it turned out. Try to clean this one up a little bit because I was unhappy with it. There we go. So while that's drying, I'm actually going to dry brush the guns. For the guns, dry brush, armor painter gunmetal. Like I said earlier, I'm not doing the riders on this stream because I have a video on how to do clones, so it's the same thing. If you want to see how I do clones, go watch that video. It's the most popular video on my channel, so people like it. I'm taking my small dry brush, rubbing off most of the paint so that it starts doing like that on the paper towel, and one direction, just dry brush the guns. It's the fastest way I have found to make guns look worn and metallic. Good night, Sareth. I'm not on for much longer myself. I'm glad to be back to streaming. I have missed it. Dry brush all these guns. The other one, underneath ones, I might make a little more silver because they're gonna be closer to the ground, get rocks and chips and stuff bouncing up into them. And then this cowling on the back that somebody told me is just an engine cowling is going to get a dry brush as well. Almost too much paint. All right. So, for the panels, Spaceship Exterior. Need to get it mixed up. I haven't used it in a minute. Spaceship Exterior. I'm going to go to the bottom of something real quick because I want to test it. Because I'm thinking it may be a little bit dark for what I want to do. But I'm going to do some edge or a little bit light for what I want to do. That's okay. We'll do some edge highlighting with it. Thin it out. Now it's drying the right color. Okay. So for the panels, we'll do the same thing. Just grab out the middles to bring back some of our color. I'm honestly not going to do a whole lot with it because I still want to have a grungy look to this speeder. But this is going to be the time-consuming part, is bringing back your base color here. So I'll demo a couple panels and then I'm going to call it a night. And I'm working with this pretty thin down so that it doesn't cover up all that wash grunge that we've got going on. Come back at this panel again. Make sure you don't get this into any of your panel lines because it'll look really weird. But that's kind of what you'll end up with. I've done these couple of front nose cones. At the top edge of these little sponson things, stabilizers. I probably won't do the sides or the bottom with it a whole lot. Maybe hit a couple of the panels that stick out on the sides or bottom. Have a good night, Dan. I'm just about ready to wrap myself, so thanks for stopping on by. I have a bad habit of not stopping when I say I'm done, so I'll finish all these nose panels and then be finished. Alright, so what I'll probably work on another day is paneling the rest of this out, but this is where we're at. Give you a quick 380-degree view of what I'm working on. So thanks so much for stopping on by, everyone. I am glad that you were able to make it. I look forward to streaming again soon. Look for me next week. I will not be on it all over the weekend. Got a weekend out of town with the wife, and then Sunday night's the Super Bowl. Go 49ers. Glad my team made it. So if I lose subscribers for that, so be it. But been a 49er fan since I was 6 years old, so I'm happy they're in. But to finish this guy up, what I'll do is I'll do some panel lining, do a little bit of battle damage. I can show you with the battle damage. I do want to show you that real quick, and how I do that before I log off. I'm going to find my sponge piece, or get a new one of the two. Why is it that, there it is. Alright. Piece of a sponge, or a piece of foam of some sort. This minus the cat hair. This comes out of a lot of miniatures come with foam in them. Rip a piece off. I'm going to go into my dark stone and dab it off onto this paper towel. And then dab it into the areas that I want to have battle damage. Just a dabble do. Or some like, and then what I do is go into my black, go over that same area again, and then the last step is going to be going to some of my silver. I'm not cleaning my sponge off in between, and same thing. So that makes it look like things are flying up at the front of it. And the nice thing with this is you can cover up any areas where you had a boo-boo. So like over here, get some of the edge of this thing here. I would focus on the nose and the bottom edges, but that's how I do that. So that's really it for tonight. Thanks for stopping on by. I hope everyone has a good evening. I will see you next week. Thanks for keep your eye out on my page for some very exciting news. And it is time to cut to my outro that is very loud. Ears plugged. Catch y'all later. Bye. Show your appreciation by hitting the like button. You can subscribe by hitting the logo in the center of their screen to see all the new stuff as it comes out. Find me on social media at xxnerford for Twitter, Facebook, Jagged Brush Studios. To see the next video, hit the video on the left. To see the newest upload, hit the video on the right. And I hope you enjoyed. Get out there and paint some more.